What's going on, guys? We are starting our podcast. Mena here. Samantha, introduce yourself.
My name is Samantha Strom. My podcast is called Chasin' High Vibes. We are starting season 2, and we are kicking it off with this podcast.
Exciting stuff. Mena here. I own Mythos Real Estate, and my podcast starting today as well is going to be called Mindset to Mogul, and it's all about how my mindset has allowed me to overcome adversity and get to the point where I'm at today, being the owner of a real estate company in one of the most competitive markets in the world. So looking forward to bringing on many guests like Samantha. Do you want to tell them how we met and how we came across each other?
Yeah, so we work out at the same gym. You go to Motion, right?
I do.
And then we just met recently at a networking event. Mm-hmm. And I also am a small business owner. My podcast is all about changing your mindset as well. And we both kind of connected on this thought wave of being able to manifest with God. But yeah, I thought it was super kismet how we met. We're both starting our podcast at the same time. So we're like, let's just kick it off together.
Yeah. And I'm glad we actually did this. I feel like a lot of times, you meet people and you guys have good vibes and good conversation and you want to do something together that's productive. But a lot of people flake out. People get scared. Life happens. Distractions happen. But I think it's quite a testament that, we actually made it happen. So here we are.
I agree. And going off of that, I just saw the best TikTok video. And this girl was like, some of the most successful people, they just sloppily jump into stuff. And I'm not saying any of this is sloppy, but sometimes you just got to go for it and learn as you go.
That's a great way to start, because I think for me, my biggest thing in life has just been showing up. And there's been so many times where, I've had like these, I grew up in a very, I'd say, negative environment. I mean, thank God I had, great parents and great family, but at the end of the day, they were just very fixed mindset. So it was super difficult to, allow them to understand that I wanted to try different jobs, and they weren't supportive of my failures, and I feel like I had so many different jobs, sometimes through my 20s, I was trying different things. I was kind of a jack of all trades, and they would constantly remind me of those failures. Like, why are you trying to do real estate when you failed A job, B job, C job? Like, are you really thinking you're going to succeed in this? And that's kind of been like one of those things where like, yes, I'm going to succeed. I'm just going to keep showing up and, learning from my failures. So
that is so relatable. I've always been a jack of all trades. My family's always been supportive, but I've always kind of been like the black sheep, and I learn a lot from my failures.
Yeah.
But I think it's such an overcome, because what you allow in your mind and who you surround yourself with really does affect, your mindset. And I feel like your mindset and your belief system and your subconscious is so important when you want to succeed in something, when you want to manifest something, when you really want to pray to God and have total faith that he's going to answer your prayers instead of all of these doubts.
Right.
So I feel like that would be a little bit tough. Is your family still like that?
Yes. Although the funny thing is, as I've really stepped into kind of this different world of self-growth, self-development, I've gotten to a point where I really want to start sharing it with other people. And I think I got to, start sharing it with my family. And I think if I can get them to believe in it, I think I could affect and change a lot of other lives. So funny enough, I have started, kind of slowly but surely allowing them to kind of buy into it.
Yeah.
And it's really tough because, they're set in their ways. But at the end of the day, I think they're seeing that I'm changing for the better, and I think as they're seeing that, they're more open-minded to it.
Yeah, I love that. And sometimes you got to take what they say with a grain of salt. I feel like it's not our job to try to change people.
I know.
But it is our job to stay on this frequency of raising our subconscious, especially in the manifestation realm, which is kind of where I'm at right now. Like you said, with self-growth, wanting to hit our small business goals or our business goals.
Yeah.
And going into our topic, which is kind of manifesting with God, because we're both Christian. I love God. You love God.
Me too.
I did have a small period in my life where I strayed a little bit.
Okay.
And now that I've come back to God, I just recently got baptized.
Congrats.
I love my life. But I realized the word manifest has such a negative connotation about it.
Right.
Like, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like manifest to me is just a mixture of a lot of things, but I think part of it is faith, part of it is believing, and really having that faith. I think manifestation to me was really just seeing that you're going to become something in life and not allowing, whether it's people around you, your peers, your environment to really establish, kind of a box, but the fact that that God created you in his image and, you have a purpose in this life. So I think that was really big for me, which I think it's unfortunate that a lot of, parents don't always give their kids kind of that belief. But
Yeah.
for me, that's faith. That's God is, hey, like you can do anything you want in this life and you have a purpose and your purpose is immeasurable. Like it's not, it's not like you could only come up to this level. You have possibilities are endless. And I think that's what manifestation is. It's just, I know that I have a purpose here and I'm bigger than maybe what my family wants me to be or what my friends think I should be. And at the end of the day, I think manifestation is what God allows us to be.
I totally agree. I think following your purpose, following your bliss, following your passion and your God-given talents,
Right.
and realizing like when you pray to God, like he will answer. Like remember
Right.
the Bible verse where Peter wanted to walk on water?
Yep.
And as soon as he started walking and he started letting that fear and that doubt came in, he started to sink.
Yeah.
And Jesus was like, why are you doubting?
Right.
And a lot of the new age community right now, which is something I just left, they believe that I am my own God. So like we're all one. Therefore, if we're all one, then we have to be one with God and we hold all the power.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to lie. I kind of gave into that belief for 2 years when I first started my business, but I grossed almost $1 million my third year in sales.
That's amazing.
And then when I went away from New Age and went back to Christ, my sales dropped a lot. And I feel like I was focusing so much on God
Yeah.
and still having so much fear and doubt. And I stopped doing the self-work. I stopped raising my self-worth.
Yeah.
I stopped working on my subconscious and surrounding myself with people with a positive mindset.
Right.
And so I feel like we can't depend solely on God to create the reality we want. Like we
Right.
have to align our actions with our prayers and then
100%.
have no doubt. I feel like manifestation is having total belief that it's going to come and also just like releasing that.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I know that. I feel like a lot of my, also like my parents, a lot of times are like, well, just pray to God about it. But at the end of the day, I'm a big believer that you have to work for it too. And I think also manifestation is, like, I don't know if you heard of like a reticular activator in our brain, which basically allows us to filter things, that we see in the world. So for example, we're starting a podcast, so we start kind of hearing all of our friends that are doing podcasts too. And I think that's part of manifestation too, is really just our focus in life. So if our focus is self-growth, our focus is manifesting what we truly want, and we're constantly showing up. And that's why, I think us meeting in a way was part of the manifestation, because, we're kind of filtering who do I really want to surround myself with. And then before you know it, you're around 100 people, but you start seeing only the 2 to 3 people that can benefit you and truly help you get to that next level. And I think that's partly manifestation is, your brain just telling you, okay, this person is somebody you need to talk to more. And, before you know it, you start things start lining up.
I love that. It's kind of like the law of attraction.
It is, yeah.
So I think one of the points I want to hit on this podcast is like, you can be Christian, you can love God, but you could still believe in the law of attraction and like the law of manifestation, the law of assumption, and really take accountability for your own self-work.
Right.
And still love God and know you're going to heaven and not have it be like this evil thing. Because like, how many Christians do we know right now that are kind of struggling in their life because they're depending solely on prayer without fully having the faith and belief that that prayer is going to be answered undeniably, because
Right.
that's how good our God is.
Amen. Yeah, I agree. let's ask you a question. Like, what do you think have been like your biggest struggles in life, and how did you overcome them? Maybe through manifestation or just through, your mindset.
Well, I started my company 5 years ago now. It's called Chasing Unicorns. We are a monthly ritual box. I have my own product line. It's all organic bath and body. And we are one of the only subscription boxes on the market right now that promote small business, American made products and brands that are mission led.
Right.
And so every month I do a box that's around wellness, bath and body, kind of incorporating faith in there. But when I first started, it was very new age. And like yourself, I've had a lot of other jobs. I also had a company and I sold it, and I was just kind of finding out my purpose. And when I was super into new age, I had left the church and religion. And I was making a lot of money. I was traveling the world. I had a fulfillment center. Everything was really amazing, but I was missing God in my life. And so I hit this peak and realized I can't go any farther without God. And I feel like the rug kind of got swept up under me. I wasn't following my purpose. I didn't know what my purpose was anymore. I wasn't in alignment with my own brand.
Okay.
And so this was like the last 2 years where I'm just kind of realigning and building my business up into this new person that I am, which is back to being Christian, which was how I was raised.
Love that.
But I feel like right now, or in the past 2 years, my biggest struggle has been changing my mindset, because I was so into manifesting and the crystals and the sage and the full moon rituals and believing so much in myself.
Yeah.
But I was still manifesting. And then the minute I realized I needed God, I stopped all of my practices around self-work and self-growth, and my sales dropped.
Right.
So now I'm trying to find this equilibrium.
Kind of the perfect medium.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, I've been in a roller coaster, obviously, like real estate. When I started my first couple of years, I feel like I was really just trying to break through from, my former mindset, my family's mindset of like, you'll never do this. It's just, the odds are way too stacked against you. We've heard so many people fail in real estate. So that was kind of in the back of my mind, even though I was fighting, like I couldn't quite break through until one day. I think it was kind of a manifestation, but it was through God. So there was one day, it's very instilled into my memory till this day, but I just kind of went into my room, closed my eyes, was just pretty down on my luck, emotional, almost silent prayer, and asked God, please God, just show me a sign that I'm gonna, make it in this industry. And at a certain moment, I saw myself in like, the best light ever, was in a blue suit, standing on a stage, lots of people out there. And I just remember opening up my eyes and I was like, I don't know what that was, but that's what I needed to just continue moving forward. And, since then, obviously real estate, it's always a struggle, but, made it for a while. And then the next, I think, kind of the next struggle was, now what? Well, I didn't quite feel like I'm getting my purpose fully accomplished through real estate. And I think that's when mythos came about, which mythos means story. So in a way, I think even manifesting mythos, now it's like, how do I get to that next level? Mythos is it, because now I feel like it's a company where I could truly, allow people to learn mindset. I can get more into self-development. I could become a true leader that I feel like, I've been born to be. So that's kind of like where I'm at now.
I love that, because when I first started my company, I was still learning, and I was sharing with my community what I was learning and how I was doing everything. And I had such a bond with my customers. And I feel like for you, that goes hand in hand, because you could tell stories, you could relate, you could be a real human, you could share your experiences, especially with having a family that constantly puts a negative mindset around you. I think for me, like the biggest thing that's always stuck out to me was, I am not going to take advice from anyone who's not living the life I'm not living.
Yeah.
And that goes for my own parents too. Like, I love my parents, but if you're not living the life I want to live, I cannot take your advice, because you didn't go in the route to you know what I mean?
Yeah. I can relate to that too, even though, I mean, my parents are successful. My dad's a physician, but but I could still see that, you know, like they never truly took a route that like was that difficult, besides of course coming here from, you know, a different country. But besides that, I feel like, you know, there's always been kind of like a conservative outlook. And I think I almost, obviously I enjoy that. I'm conservative as well, but I think there always needs to be more risk and more growth in life. You know, it's not like, I think if you're not changing, you're, you know, you're no longer living. So I think you need to always be changing, taking risks, you know, and allowing God to manifest and, you know, show his power of what you can become.
So what would you say are some of your like top 3 techniques to incorporate like self-growth and manifestation in your daily life while still keeping God at the center?
Wow, that's a loaded question. You first. It's a good question. I mean, I think for me, I love to start the day with like just good positivity, prayer, you know, and really envisioning what I want from the day. So I think that's a big one. I also think like journaling the night before is important as well, you know, and kind of learning like what did I not accomplish today that I really want to accomplish, you know, tomorrow and moving forward. Mm-hmm. I think just writing it down, and that really helps a lot too. Number 3, I think, is consistently putting yourself in an uncomfortable situation where, you know, you're not fully sure of what could happen. And I think that's where manifestation and God can truly be aligned, because you're truly being faithful, you know. And I think that's where there's a disconnect between me and my family, is that they're faithful, they're religious, they believe in God, but I don't think they understand how prayer, you know, and manifestation and truly putting yourself out there to allow God to really, you know, do his work. So it's like you do your part, let God do the rest, you know. So that's my big thing. What about you?
I totally agree with you. During the last year and a half, I got in a relationship. I kind of stopped doing my self-work and I went back to God. So I was depending solely on God, and I wasn't doing any of the self-work, self-growth stuff that as entrepreneurs we need, right? Because I was so, for a little bit, against New Age. Like I threw out all the crystals in my house.
Thank God.
All of the false idols. I was like, God, what have I been doing? I'm just going to depend on you. But I realized aligned action is so important. So for me, I wake up and I do a meditation. I do my journaling. And the biggest thing for me with journaling is scripting. Okay. It's kind of like a New Age technique, but I use it with God at this point.
Okay.
And it's where you write out how you want your life to be in the present tense. And I've always found that to be the most powerful for me. I stopped doing that for 2 years. And that's when kind of things
went different.
Yeah.
Not quite as
But I feel like when you can script with God and be like, God, thank you so much for answering my prayer. Like, I know that you are the Almighty and you have this trust, that I also know that I love making $100,000 a month and it feels amazing. And like writing it out in that present tense and sitting in that gratitude and that knowing and that vibration has been one of the biggest game changers for me. Also, regulating my nervous system has been really important. I've been doing a lot of breath work.
Okay.
Those I think are the 3 biggest. Journaling has been a lot. Also, I don't know if anyone else does this, but like curating your Instagram feed or your TikTok feed to be positive stuff only. I am such a fan of unfollowing people. Yeah. Like mute, unfollow, curate. So like my Instagram feed and my TikTok feed are constant mindset.
It's good mindset.
Mindset. So when I do take 20 minutes to scroll, I feel like I'm constantly learning. Yeah. I literally don't care what anyone else is doing. If you're not making $1 million, I know that sounds horrible, or if you're not sharing God-like stuff or positive mindset stuff, I really can't have you on my feed. Right. And I've done that for the last year, and I feel like that's really helped me.
Yeah. Do you watch any self-development? I feel like I love, funny enough, like podcasts or just good motivational, but also not just pure motivation, but also like self-development motivation where, you know, it's kind of challenging you to grow in life. So do you watch any of those? Do you have any people that you look up to as like mentors maybe that are, you know, in that space?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't listen to music. Okay. I think a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners can relate. Like if I am in the car or if I have any free time, I am not curating a playlist. I'm literally listening to a podcast. Okay. Can you relate?
A little bit. I mean, I do love music, but I'm also conscious of what the music, that I do listen to. There's some times where, I'm just kind of like a stress day and, or maybe a celebratory day. And I'm just like, you just want that,
Yeah.
like good vibe, good beat. But I do love to listen to podcasts as well as just like self-development people, like Ed Milet's a big one that I love. There's one called Eddie Pinero that I just discovered. Honestly, he, as crazy as it sounds, in these last couple months really has just blown my mind.
Okay, I'm gonna have to check that out.
Yeah, his style is very similar to kind of what I always wanted to be, and I could just tell like his self-development is truly from a place of love and wanting people to do better, and that's really like truly who I am. And it's almost hard to truly communicate, but I feel like I'm a true empath in the sense that I feel people's energy. I love people that can truly genuinely want their friends to do well in life, and I feel like that's such a hard thing to find these days. I feel like we were just talking about it earlier, but it's just like there's so many people out there that show you one face, but behind your back, they're completely different. So I pray that there's less of those people, or they learn how to truly love others and want others to do well. And it's kind of funny, but when I was in college, this is kind of a tangent, but I was in college and was starting up, a radio show called Dream Revival. So pretty exciting that in a way that was a little bit of a manifestation. I don't think I was quite ready. It was basically a radio show that I would interview people. It didn't end up working out, but excited to say that, now, I guess 15 years later or so, we're starting something new, so...
No, I love that. I totally agree. I love Ed Milet. For me, recently, I've been listening to a lot of relationship podcasts.
Okay.
But I also love Andy Frisella.
Oh, yeah, he's great.
I'm like, the more I get older, the more I realize how conservative I am.
Yeah.
We don't have to go that route. But I love listening to podcasts. I love learning.
Right.
I was going to ask you something, but I forgot.
No worries.
Okay, I think...
You got time?
Okay. So, what are your thoughts on, like, mirroring? Because you know how you said, sometimes people are nice to your face, but behind your back, whatever.
Yeah.
So, what are your thoughts in the realm of manifesting with God that, like, our internal reflects our outternal? Like, internally, subconsciously, if you're feeling really insecure, you might reflect other people to give you that back to you.
Yeah, that's a big one.
I've been kind of studying that recently and also doing it with God, knowing that he's my one and true savior.
Right.
But it's kind of been mind-boggling realizing that, like, I feel like a lot of the reality and the power comes from within us. Like, depending on my internal state, consciousness, mood, vibe, it really dictates how other people act towards me.
Okay.
Do you relate to that at all?
I'll be honest with you, I haven't looked too far into it. I definitely want to, but I would say, I guess it's somewhat similar, but I think I do have to be good with myself, and this is, people around me too. Like, I think that's such a self-development, kind of piece to nugget, if you will, is that, like, if you're not good with yourself, it's really difficult to be good with other people, and I think a lot of people project that outwardly. So, if I'm going home and I'm beating myself up and, I'm saying I'm not good enough and, maybe there's issues that I have that I'm like too heavy on myself and not allowing myself to grow from it. I mean, because let's be honest, we all have, little things that are issues that we need to learn and expand and kind of like leave in the past.
Yeah.
So I think some people just, they don't learn how to improve their lives, and they are too hard on themselves for little things that they've done in the past. And I think that comes out in their relationships where, the fact that they're so hard on themselves and maybe a little toxic with themselves, that comes out in their friendships and their relationships. And, when they're in a relationship, they're never truly present and like loving that person as much as they could because they're not good in themselves. So I think that's a big thing that we could all, kind of practice and learn from.
I totally agree. I think it shows so much in romantic relationships too.
Right.
Where however you're acting is going to kind of mirror that other person.
100%.
And we all have our own childhood issues that we need to grow through. But like, I'm at the point in my life where like I'm growing through it and we're healing and we're moving the heck on.
Right.
Like, we are too old to be dealing with relationship drama because someone doesn't want to do the freaking work to fix their avoidant or anxious attachment style.
Right.
I think self-awareness is really key too.
Right.
But to bring it back a little bit to manifesting with God, I think the last month has been such a huge epiphany for me. Just knowing that I could still create the reality I want and have God on my side instead of trying to like keep God as this outside figure. And so if that's the case, it really makes the law of attraction and the law of assumption and the law of mirroring all kind of real.
Right.
Because I feel like people go two ways. They're like, oh, you're new age, you believe in crystals, like you're a witch, you're crazy, or you believe in God, you pray, and then you just depend solely on that. But I feel like that middle ground of aligning your action with your prayer has been I just been feeling like I've been on high on life the past month, coming to this realization, because I kind of thought it had to be one way or the other.
Yeah, that's relatable. I mean, I think we were talking about this too earlier, but I mean, I grew up in a very religious household, so I feel like I have a very strong faith, but I can't help but kind of like sometimes see the people that are too religious and, you know, only focus on like the religion to the point where they can't kind of like truly love God and see God outside of the religion or like independently, or at least like, I don't know. I think sometimes people just get so blinded by religion that it gets in the way of the relationship with Christ. And I think this is a interesting story, but this happened to me probably 2-3 years ago. And I met this, basically what I didn't realize, but he was a homeless man. And we were at, you know, a fast food restaurant. I was getting my, you know, lunch. And this gentleman asked for, you know, just some rice. And, you know, I basically realized he didn't have money to buy his own lunch. So I was like, oh, I'd happily buy your lunch. And long story short, we go outside and he's like, hey, thank you so much for lunch. Is it okay if we talk for a little bit? You know, and usually we give somebody, you know, food or, you know, and we're kind of like, all right, cool, I did my good deed for the day, right? But it was interesting. He kind of was like, no, let's talk for a little bit. And he's like, I have a question for you. And his question was, you know, somebody that doesn't go to church every week, doesn't, you know, follow everything perfectly from the Bible. And he's like, do you think that person is saved? And it was just such a outlandish question out of nowhere. And I was like, yes, I believe they're saved because, you know, Christ is in their heart. They're doing good. And he's like, yes, I agree with you. And it was just such one of those moments where I, you know, feel like I kept going on with my day, and I was like, that was not a normal interaction, whether that was an angel or some kind of messenger. But at the end of the day, I feel like that was almost a message from God telling me, like, you're on the right path. You know, don't feel like too judged because you're not perfect within the church and you know, the way that maybe your family wants you to be or other people want you to be. But keep your good heart. That's what's going to save you in this life and allow you to, you know, do some incredible things.
Wow, that's such a beautiful story. I am actually so shocked that you brought this up because when I went back to Christ, my boyfriend, we had this dilemma for about 3 months, and it was eating away at both of us because I was raised by my grandma, really Christian, and in order to get to heaven, you have to believe that Jesus Christ died for your sins. And that's kind of it, because works alone will not get you to heaven.
I agree.
But the dilemma when I'm with my boyfriend was he was raised out of fear a little bit.
Yeah.
And kind of thinking like you could lose your salvation. So a lot of people, I think, who heavily depend on religion kind of scare people away because they feel like if you don't do this or this or this, you're not going to get to heaven.
Yeah.
And that takes away from the one-on-one relationship that you have with God, especially when you want to manifest.
Yeah.
So for 3 months, he was confusing me a little bit. I was like, well, I just sinned like yesterday and the day before. So am I going to lose my salvation? But in my heart, I realized like, no, because if you believe in Jesus Christ and you truly believe in him, then you're on it. Then naturally you're going to be a better person.
Right.
If you believe that.
Right.
And we're all going to sin, which is why he died on the cross for us.
Right.
So I don't think you could lose your salvation. But for a couple months there, my boyfriend was like confused too, and he, because of, you know, his father and the way that he was raised, but he was like, you got to do works to get to heaven, and that's just not the case. And I think that's why a lot of people get a little bit scared of religion, because they feel like if you don't do the work, then you're not going to go to heaven.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a balance. You know, obviously, I think having a relationship with God will lead you in the right direction as well. But obviously, just like manifestation, you know, it's not just one thing or the other, but it's two things. It's, you know, praying and manifesting. You know, if you just manifest and also not do the work, you know, then things will never be, you know, where you want them to be. So,
Yeah, I agree with that too. I think aligned action and just having total faith, which is kind of hard. I think a lot of people struggle with knowing that they're worthy enough for their desire to come through.
right.
You know, like even when people pray to God, I feel like subconsciously they feel like maybe they're not worthy of that.
Right.
And so Jesus and God might be like, well, why are you doubting yourself?
Right. I remember when we initially met, you spoke about self-worth, and I think that was a pretty interesting thing that I hadn't really thought about. But what's your relationship with self? I think you were talking about self-worth and how that allows you to manifest. So I'd love to hear your perspective on that. That was a good one.
So, I believe that we manifest from our self-worth.
Mm-hmm.
The higher our self-worth, like the faster our manifestations come through, because with high
Right.
self-worth, you realize that you are deserving of everything you desire.
Right.
You have total faith that God's going to answer your prayers because he told us in the Bible multiple times that he would.
Right.
And so when you're manifesting from a place of low self-worth, I don't think you feel worthy of your manifestations to come through. And then if we're working on this world, right? Because we're not really in heaven yet, right? Like this
Right.
is just this little 3D world that we're in that is kind of,
Waiting area.
yeah. So if it is this little game that we're playing, I do think self-worth plays a huge part in manifesting. And I think if that is true, then the whole the whole goal of your self-growth should be to raise your self-worth to a deservingness,
Right.
a knowing that you deserve it, and then aligned action to, you know, do the things that it takes. Like you can't just lay in bed all day.
Yeah. The actual work and every day, you know, really moving the needle, doing
Yeah.
the right thing, and, you know, putting yourself out there. What advice would you give somebody that, you know, maybe struggles with self-worth? Because I think self-worth too is also taught, because this is like something I think was a struggle for me too, is that growing up, I've always been, since the beginning, I mean, I feel like even in preschool to a certain degree, like self-worth was, you know, like you're not good enough. Like that's kind of just what I learned through school and through a little bit of my, you know, parenting and just different things. So like, for example, in even in kindergarten, you know, they made me flunk. And I think like in your early years, depending on like how your parents raise you as well, you may grow up and just be like, man, maybe I don't deserve that lifestyle. Maybe I don't deserve to be that successful broker. So what would you tell people that maybe struggle with that self-worth based on, you know, kind of their upbringing and, you know, maybe schooling system, which I think is pretty faulty, unfortunately.
For sure. I think when we are children, our mindset and our programming really shapes who we are. And so my biggest advice would be you have to retrain your subconscious mind and reprogram yourself to get rid of those limiting beliefs. And it's way easier said than done.
Yep.
So many people got bullied in school, raised poorly, just all around limiting beliefs. But if we are living in this world that's not heaven yet, and we know that like the devil kind of rules this playground, right?
Yep.
And we see all these people who are not godly manifesting the life that they want because they're basically narcissists, but they create that reality through the law of attraction. My biggest advice would be to use God as a tool and your best friend to reprogram those beliefs of low self-worth. Because if you can think of it in terms of that, you're going to manifest based on your self-worth.
Yeah.
No one's going to manifest the life they want if they don't think they're deserving of it.
Right.
Especially if we're kind of in this realm of like not being in heaven, like kind of seeing where things go. I think my biggest piece of advice would be to do meditations and journaling and hanging around people and do that self-reflection work to recognize your triggers and the programming that you got between 1 to 7 years old that says that you're not good enough. Because if we manifest from a place of self-worth, we have to know we're deserving. And so I think that just journaling, self-reflection, listening to positive things, and, you know, reprogramming your subconscious mind to know that you are so worthy of the life that you desire should be the number one task or goal almost for every day.
Definitely. Yeah, and I think it's kind of like it's a momentum, you know. It's like some days I was talking about with my trainer earlier, but I think it's also like some days you just are down on yourself, but you can't allow that to, you know, linger for too long, and you need to snap out of it and find gratitude. You know, I'm in real estate, and, you know, it's a constant grind. There are days where, you know, things just don't go your way, and you're kind of quick to want to just feel sorry for yourself, maybe be a little bit down, maybe like lazy the next day, not wake up as early, and, you know, just not do the right work. But I think that's where like gratitude and God and manifestation kind of come back, and you want to just realign, figure out like what you're grateful for. And then I think when you get back to that space of like, you know, just a good vibration, good manifestation, and gratitude for God and all that he's given you, I think that's when you can like get out of that and truly get to, you know, that self-worth again, where you can produce on a high level.
I totally agree. I think even for me, it's been a struggle the last month of even wanting to get out of bed.
Yeah.
Like, I will just snooze my alarm.
Right.
And then feel bad that I snoozed. Be like, oh my God, you're such a loser. Like, get out of bed. But like, you literally cannot move. Yeah. Just a little depression, a little anxiety.
Right.
But for me, especially being in a rocky place right now with a few things in my life, I realize that I am the only one that's in control. Yeah. And if it is true that I mirror my outside reality, then everything in here has to be freaking on point, because that's what I'm going to attract. And I also realize that the frequency and the vibration of gratitude, like when I'm like, thank you so much for inviting me here today and getting me coffee, I am in a state of receiving.
Yeah.
So when you stay in a state of constant gratitude, you're in a state of receiving, knowing that God is going to provide. And so getting to that frequency of realizing what you really want and how you're going to get there, and kind of feeling, this is kind of where the woo-woo stuff comes in, but we're bridging the gap and bringing that back to God. Yeah. Getting to that state of emotional feeling like what you wanted has already happened and you're so grateful for it. Yeah. I feel like it magnetizes things a lot faster. Right. And so for the last month, since I've been in a little depressive episode, that's what's been my motivating factor of getting me out of bed in the morning.
Love that. Yeah, I mean, I also believe in, for me, it's like kind of the abundance versus scarcity. And I think it's just knowing that, you know, there's so much out there. God, you know, has limitless, you know, amount of treasure to share with us. And I think, you know, sometimes like people around us are maybe more in the scarcity mindset where it's like, no, this is mine. Like, you know, I got to keep it all to me. But I've always been also kind of just an abundant mindset type of person where, you know, I just know deep down that God has, you know, immeasurable amount, which he does. But, you know, I could share with people, you know, my advice on real estate. I can give to other agents that maybe are competition. I can do these things. And I think that too, you know, makes it even better for, you know, just consistently getting more of what you want.
I agree. And that's how I first started at my company. It was like community over competition. There's always room for one more.
Yeah.
There's more than enough in this life with abundance of everything, regardless of what the government or anything says. Like, there's more than enough water. There's more than enough land. There's more than enough money.
Right.
And so having that abundant mindset, I also totally agree with. It's kind of like comes back down to money too. I think people's viewpoints on money is super, super huge.
Yeah.
If you hate money, if it gives you a pit in your stomach, and if you are really feeling like money hates me, I hate money, I hate paying my bills, like, money's not going to really come to you.
Yeah. And that's something I feel like I'm slowly overcoming too, because I mean, I've always loved money, liked money, knew that it's, it's something that could provide good in the world, and I want more of it to be able to affect positively people around me. But that's also something that's been instilled, I feel like, from family, is that money isn't good, and be careful. Don't get too much money. Don't go out of the way and like really try to, produce big in life, because bad people are going to come after you, bad friends and all these like negatives. But it's like, wait a second, like, you're not, you brought me up in this incredible household of faith and all these great things. Like, don't you believe that God can transform money, and transform you into actually utilizing it for good, and it's kind of just always been what's in my heart. But at the same time, those are limiting beliefs. So now I'm, kind of learning to change those and say, no, money is good, because if you're good, you're going to do good things with money.
For sure. I think so many people struggle with exactly what you're saying, because we've seen our parents struggle. We've seen our grandparents struggle. My grandparents lived in the Depression, the house crisis in 2008 or whatever, especially with everything going on right now with inflation.
Right.
The biggest thing for me is I've already tasted what a lot of money feels like. And then I kind of was like,
yeah.
So I love money. I want to swim in a pool of money. Money loves me. I attract money so easily. I cannot help but make a lot of money. Money gives me freedom. Money gives me relaxation. Money allows me to help other people. Yeah. Money allows me to spread the gospel and do God's work. And that's like the only energy that I want to put out there is like, I love money. Money loves me. Like, seriously, I feel like I love money so much, because it does your mindset around money. I think if we were to look at money as a consciousness, which I don't really, it could or couldn't be, but if it's an energy and you have those beliefs, like, that money is not going to want to come to you.
Yeah, I agree. I would also say, I mean, I learned this from the conference I went to, but I forgot the name of the speaker off the top of my head. But he was also talking about, I also believe, I mean, as much as I do love money, I know that it's not always like the perfect reward. So I think you have to first be good with your soul. And he said something interesting. He said you could have $1 billion, but if your soul is zero, 1 billion times zero is zero. So all that money still doesn't give you the reward you want if you don't have the soul and the reward you do through Christ and God, and you're getting your true reward elsewhere. And then the money, it's like, well, okay, how much do you want? It's like, is 100 million enough? Then it's like, okay, limitless, because you're already good on your own. So the money, it's almost just a bonus. So that when you do have it, it's not going to change you. It's not going to push you down a different route. So I think that was important to learn too.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I feel like, so many people that we hear about who are millionaires, it's never enough.
Right.
It's like, once I hit 1 million, I'll be fine. And then it's like, no, I got to hit 5, and then I got to hit 10.
Right.
So for me, like, just financial freedom is important. I'm not putting a cap on it, but I really do love money. I know that it's not the reward, but I think the more that we operate from bliss, passion, our purpose with God, our God-given talents, the more money is naturally going to flow to us. I'm also kind of been reaffirming the mindset that money doesn't have to be hard to come by.
Okay.
That's been something I've been trying to go with, because the last 2 years I've been hustling and working so hard. And I really just want to be like, money can flow easily to me when I am in my purpose and I'm deserving and God's on my side.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a struggle. But I totally agree. If your soul isn't right, if you're letting these worldly things get to you, if you start getting your ego in the way of thinking like that I am God, which
Yeah.
is what a lot of the new age people think, then I don't think there's any amount of money in the world that could make you happy.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree. If it's at the sacrifice of your soul, and ultimately you can't take money with you, but what are you doing with the money? Are you truly able to give back and share with the community and build other people up, or is that money just kind of causing you to just be like kind of back to kind of a selfish mode, or almost a lack of abundance, where it's like, all right, I have all this money now, how do I just like keep it, and not share it with anybody else?
I agree. I think it's just there's so much work, right? So much work to do.
I know. Never ends.
I think another big exciting thing that I realized was that God actually does talk about manifesting in the Bible. And there's a few Bible verses that we'll share in the show notes. So if you guys want to look at the notes from the show, I think there'll be like 6 or 7. And I feel like these Bible verses really changed my perspective on just how gracious God really is.
Yeah.
For people who believe in him and do his will and do his work. Again, it's a fine line of like not just doing this because I want this, but like knowing that God will answer your prayers and give you your desires and work miracles in your life if you just have total faith and belief, which is what I think is the definition of manifestation. I feel like a lot of people pray, but they don't believe that it would actually happen. And then so God is like, well, why are you doubting me?
Right.
And then a lot of people ditch religion and they're like, well, let's just take God out of the equation and let's just pray to the universe or pray to myself.
Right.
And so they manifest certain things, but without God, I don't think they're truly living. But I feel like these Bible verses that you guys could review right now in the show notes, I really just love, because God and Jesus say in the Bible, I will answer your prayer, like if you just don't doubt me.
Yeah, it's really powerful. What's your what's your next big goal, if you will? Like, what's your for the future? What do you really want to accomplish in life?
I really want to scale my company up again. I mean, we're in a good place right now, but I want to go back up into the thousands. Because I know that our mission is really important. And that's my biggest goal right now, is focusing on my business and building it back up now that I'm in alignment with who I really am.
Yeah.
When I first started it and we hit a couple million each year, I wasn't the same person that I am now. So my biggest goal would be to sell my company. I mean, scale it, maybe sell it. I want to have a family. I want to have a loving husband. I want to build a relationship through Christ and be in my feminine, and have my husband be in his masculine. I want to have financial freedom, and I want to travel a little bit. My biggest goal right now, though, is I think I do want to do a digital course on manifesting with God. I love the digital course space. But yeah, I kind of have my hands full with my business. I also have another business that's doing really well. We have a warehouse over here in Costa Mesa. We ship out hundreds of monthly subscription box a month. But yeah, my biggest goal right now, I think, would be business, relationship, and then faith and foundation. My long-term goals is I want to be a content creator and work from home, and raise my kids and homeschool them, and manage my business from the side. Right now, I'm kind of in the, what do you say? Like the pits, as you will.
Pits, yeah.
I'm in the trenches.
Yeah.
Again. What would you say your long-term goals are with your new podcast now and your real estate business?
Yeah, I think for me it's a lot more simple, but it's just getting out of my own way. I think for a while I've kind of just let circumstances and things just kind of define me as like just real estate, just this, just one thing. But now I think I really want God to kind of work through me and just show me what he wants me to do in life. And I know a lot of that is going to be just creating a community and really being able to affect people positively, whether it's through real estate, through podcasts, through, hopefully being able to, just be a good leader in life. Of course, that's part of that is being, potential father, and get married and all those things as well. So yeah, just ready for that next transformation of, not just letting one thing define me in life, but getting over the limiting beliefs and, kind of creating a different life for myself.
I love that. I totally relate to that. Okay, one last question before we kind of sign off here. Have you ever been on fire for God? Like, have you ever been like, oh my God, like God is real, like I'm a Jesus freak?
Yeah. I think for me, it's just always been yes, but it's always in there. But I think sometimes in different stages, and I think sometimes like we get steered off the path for different things. We get focused on business, and sometimes it's God isn't always the center of it. But I think I always come back to Him. But I feel like I've always been. I mean, I would say like I remember probably like graduating high school. I think that was like probably the biggest realization of how on fire I was for God. But I remember, being in this situation where I almost got in an accident, and just so many different things. It was my birthday. I think it was actually my 18th birthday. And at the time, my friend's grandma passed away. So, I was going to a funeral on my birthday. Of course, being an 18-year-old, I was like, oh, great. Like, this is my birthday. Like, kind of just being like, why? Why is this happening on my birthday? I was supposed to do this and celebrate, but instead I'm doing this. So on the way to the funeral grounds, I ended up with my mom in the car, was very close to like almost like a head-on collision where a car just like ran a red light.
Wow.
Yeah, and I remember, of course, at that moment you forget everything that, doesn't matter. And I remember coming out of the car and just, making sure people were okay and just thinking about it. And I was like, they're like, you're a witness, like, here's your information. What's your birthday? And I was like, oh, it's today. I just remember going home and I was like, all right, like, thanks God. I realized that you gave me the gift of life and I should be grateful for every day and not, focus on the negative, but focus on the positive. That clearly you're watching my back and you're not just like, just God, like, that I never see. But in that moment, I truly felt His hand kind of like show me that, hey, like, look, like I'm protecting you. And that was like the biggest gift I think I could have ever had, where you just truly felt God like in my life and helping me.
Wow. So that was like a pivotal moment in your life when you're like, God is real. He's
Right.
not just this thing. And you really felt that bond with Him.
Right.
I totally can relate to that because for the last 2 months, I've felt Him so heavily, more than I ever have in my life. And I feel like kind of being on fire for God and wanting to be in His Word and wanting to read the Bible, it really does something to you.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think kind of being on fire for God and developing your own one-on-one relationship with God, it kind of gets easier to decipher His real messages for you that are not just our thoughts, but like Him kind of guiding us on this right direction.
Right.
But the crazy thing is, as hard or easy as it is to like be super on fire for God, it's so easy to let the worldly stuff in and then lose that connection with Him.
Yep.
So I've been kind of on this roller coaster with like wanting to feel God in my life every day, but also letting the distractions of this world kind of come into the way of my relationship with Him. And then I'm not on fire with Him. So then I don't see Him everywhere. I don't feel Him everywhere. I just think that's such an interesting concept that I think could help a lot of people if they actually felt His presence.
Right.
Especially with manifesting.
Right. It's almost like they need to pray for it and manifest,
Yeah.
a lot there. But I think I think at the end of the day, it's allowing God to, it's like praying to God, hey, God, show me what you could do in my life. And, especially if you're struggling and you're not feeling like you're where you are in life or you don't have the right relationship with God, I think, asking Him to truly manifest it in your life, can go a long way.
I am so excited we did this.
Yeah, me too.
I'm like loving this. I'm excited. I
Glad
think
we did this.
I'm so happy to have met you at that event.
Likewise.
Is there anything you want to say before we close out, like regarding manifesting with God?
I think the big thing in my life is like, I think manifesting is like a lot like setting the bar high as far as what you want in life and then allowing God to bring you into that. So I think I've always kind of felt like I want to be, something in life where I could truly change and help people. But I never really saw how I can get there. Like, I didn't have that self-worth. I didn't have that guidance. I didn't have that, true talent that I felt like I was given. But at the same time, I think I still opened it up to God and said, God, like, I believe in you so heavily and purely that I know this is where I want to be in life, and I'm going to allow you to kind of like shape it and bring me to that level. So I think that's my biggest takeaway, or, understanding of manifestation is like set the bar so high that you're willing to do the work, but you're also going to allow God to show you just how powerful, immeasurable he truly is.
Absolutely. I love that. I think my biggest takeaway would be you could still believe in the law of attraction and manifestation and still be a Christian and love God. And you can also really curate the life that you want based off your belief system and asking God to come in and take away those limiting beliefs and self-doubt. For me, I feel like I could still do my manifestation practices and raise my self-worth, knowing that if it's God's will, he will answer, because I am worthy of that, and he told me that I was in the Bible, and I know that he loves me. And if it doesn't work out the way that I want it, I'm still going to be okay, because I know that that's God's plan as well.
Yeah, that's his answer.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, this has been awesome.
I know. Thank you guys for listening.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it. Look forward to sharing more in the future. Take care. God bless.
We're signing off.